can see in the dark. We are rockets pointed up at the stars. We are billions of beautiful hearts. But then you sold us down the river too far. What about us? What about all the times you said you had the answers? What about us? What about all the broken happy ever afters? What about us? What about all the plans that ended in disasters? What about love? What about trust? What about us? We are problems that want to be solved. We are children that need to be loved. We were willing, we came when you called. But then you fooled us, enough is enough. Oh, what about us? What about all the times you said you had the answers? What about us? What about all the broken happy ever afters? What about us? What about all the plans that ended in disasters? What about love? What about trust? What about us? What about us? What about all the plans that ended in disasters? What about love? What about trust? What about us? Sticks and stones, they may break these bones, but then I'll be ready. Are you ready? It's the start of us waking up. Come on, I'll be ready. Are you ready? I don't want control, I want to let go. Are you ready? Now it's time to let them know. What about us? What about all the times you said you had the answers? What about us? What about all the broken happy ever afters? What about us? What about all the times you said you had the answers? What about love? What about trust? What about us? 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 What about us?
Thank you, Katie. Gosh, I was watching from the side there and looking at the faces, and really those are the forgotten people. That's what that song represents, and they're asking the question, what about us? And as a church, we have to ask the question, well, how do we respond to that? And that's where we're going with our new series that we're going to start today. It's called Unstoppable Force. And I can't wait for you guys to hear a little bit more about that. Well, my name's Tracy Henkel. I'm the Discipleship Director here at Clinton Township Campus, and one of my favorite things to do is to say welcome. We're so glad you're here. If you're brand new, thank you. If you're brand new to Kensington, if this is your first time or maybe second or third time, and you're just feeling like, wow, this is a really big place and I don't know where to begin, I want to invite you to the starting point table. We want to make it really easy for you to figure out how to ask questions and where to plug in, so it's out those double doors. So if you're new here, welcome, and we're glad that you're here. We have something coming up right around the corner. Who is realizing Easter's like a month away? It's March, people. How about that? And Easter at Kensington is a really big deal, and so we want you to be thinking about it's time to download your tickets. And if you've been here with us for a while and you've done holiday services, you know that these are free, and they're a placeholder so that we can spread people out over the services. So if you want a certain service, I would encourage you to go online and get your tickets right now. Well, this year's Easter service is called The Greatest Show on Earth. And just like a show, we have acts in a show, right? And so we're going to do it a little differently this year. Palm Sunday is going to be Act 1, so don't miss it. If you miss the first act, that's not cool. So Palm Sunday is Act 1. Act 2 is Good Friday, and Act 3 is Easter services on Saturday and Sunday. And so The Greatest Show on Earth is about magic, and we know that we're all usually really in awe of magic, but it's an illusion. And what if it wasn't an illusion? What if it was real? What if the disappearing and the reappearance of Jesus is true? And what is the impact for that in our lives? So we're excited that we have this awesome Easter program. So don't wait to get your tickets. Download them. Again, they're free, and you can go online and get those right now. Well, something else I want you to know about is at Kensington, we have a really incredible intern program. And it's the time of year to tell you a little bit about it and maybe nudge you to see if you're thinking about the intern program. Watch this video.
One of my favorites every time. I freaking love it.
The Kensington Internship is a 10-month adventure of learning and life change. Choose whatever excites you, mentoring students, honing your creativity in the arts, or diving in with our local and global partners. Whatever your passion, you will grow personally, professionally, and spiritually.
Every week I can expect to grow and learn something. My own potential that I even see in myself has increased unbelievable amounts.
Once you have confidence in who God is and seeing His promises, nothing else matters. A deep, intimate relationship with Him leads to huge changes on a daily basis. It's cool.
Lifelong friendships are being built within this program. What started out as just an internship and having other interns has grown into like this really small wolf pack of solid guys that are always there. We always are there for each other and support each other.
God seems to personalize the Kensington internship. He's been really teaching me that like I am His daughter and that He delights in me just because of who I am, and I have to look at myself the way that God looks at me.
Having real job experience, being able to get your hands dirty, doing actual projects, but also you're still learning.
The internship program is for people of all ages and all walks of life. So whatever your background, we invite you to dream with us. What could God do with 10 months of your life?
What's really cool about that video is our interns made that video. Top notch. That's what they learn to do, things like that. It's a very hands-on program. It's a very much a part of learning and growing in your faith program. And did you notice that they showed the faces of the interns? It really is all ages. So we invite you to think about it. If you have questions, there's a table out by the info center. And the one word that I heard this time that I didn't hear last time was wolf pack. And I'm like, what a cool feeling to be part of a group that is all on mission to learn and grow and be hands-on and learn things that are life skills too. So check that out, think about it, ask some questions about the intern program. So you should have received one of these on your way in. Could you hold it up? Did you get one? Nope, didn't get one? Go ahead, raise your hands, they'll bring one out to you. Or you can pick one up on the way out. So we've been talking about this, and I think it's not a surprise for you to see this picture of Chris on here. This is our We Want You, it's a volunteer recruiting program. But we're not just recruiting for any old thing. I mean, we are recruiting for our new building. Are we excited about that? I mean, 2 months out. We are less than 2 months out. And so what we know as we are planning and thinking about and preparing for moving into that building is our volunteer teams are going to look different. Things are changing and we have different needs, and we are inviting you to be a part of this with us. And I used to lead serving teams, and I'm so passionate about sharing with people that when you join a team, you are meeting people. You are getting new friendships and connecting, and then you start to walk in the building on Sunday, and it's like, hey, I know that person. And then I also just want to dispel a myth that I think some of you hold back from considering this, is that you think if I join this team, they're going to make me serve every single weekend. And we don't do that. We want you to come to church. You can set it up however what your schedule is like. So serve once a month, serve a couple times a month. I mean, there are so many opportunities. So what we want you to do is pray about this. We really believe that God is going to provide for our needs for this new building, and that some of you are being nudged to be a part of this awesome team. So fill this out, and then you can drop it off in the bucket on the way out, okay? Stand up, say hello, do the crunch, and if you're serving, tell someone why you love it. Okay, so I want to set up the day for you guys. As our teaching team was dreaming about and preparing and coming up with all the artistic elements of this new Unstoppable Force series, something happened that was really unique and special. Our founding pastors, which are Steve Andrews and Dave Wilson, they really felt like, you know what, this series represents the heart of who Kensington is. That we want to be the unstoppable force as a church. And they said, you know what, we want to record this, and we want everyone to hear it from us, the founding pastors. So across all 8 campuses today is a video recording that they made especially for you. And I want to tell you that Chris did want to be here today, but I'm Chris today, because he called last night and he got the flu. I know, bummer. And so be thinking about him and praying for him, but he is just as passionate about this message as Dave and Steve are. So I'm excited for you to hear this message today about unstoppable force and who we want the church to be. Enjoy.
I got to tell you, I'm pretty excited to do a message today with you.
Well, of course.
Well, here's why. Most of the time I'm on stage. Last week I was on stage with Ann, and I look over there and I look at something beautiful. Today I'm looking over at Mr. Baldhead over there, and I don't know.
It looks
but
like
I'm excited.
We're like twins.
Yeah, okay, what do you do with that? I don't know what to do with that. But here's what's exciting. You and I get to talk about, I think, one of the passions of our heart. It's the call of God on our lives. We get to talk about the church being an unstoppable force. 3-week series we're starting today. It's a really exciting time in our
that's what
history.
brought you and me and Mark together all those years ago, 31 years ago.
And what's amazing is, you know my story, and many of Kensington know this, but I grew up sort of hating the church. My mom, single mom, dragged me to church every week. No option. You got to go to church. And every year, I never understood this, we switched denominations. I mean, I look back, I was a Bapto, Metho, Episcopalian, Lutheritarian. I mean, and I'm not even getting them all. I had every denomination in my background. And it wasn't until I was like 16, I said, Mom, why do we keep switching churches? Are you looking for a guy? And she said, yep.
Yeah.
And we never found the guy, but here's what
you never connected, so you never built relationships. Yeah.
My view of the church as a high school kid was, I'm never going when I don't have to, and I went to college, never went again.
Yeah.
It's dead, it's boring, it's an insider club. Nobody on the outside's really wanted, even though they said they were, and they never did anything. It never seemed like anything happened in the community, and I thought, that can't be God's dream for the church, but it's all I knew.
Yeah, so mine's opposite. I went to a great church. The 2 pastors were boring. I mean, they were like...
Not like you.
If you've ever thought I was boring, you ain't seen nothing. These guys were terrible. They would put the best people asleep. But it was an incredible group of people. They loved me. I felt believed in. But the weird thing was nothing ever happened. Like this, the church moving, it just never changed. And I remember even people that came in, if they didn't dress right, or if they didn't look right or know how to act, pretty soon you could tell they got shuffled off to the side, and then they would kind of disappear. And so I remember all my life thinking, believing Jesus was alive, but like nothing's gonna ever happen.
Yeah, and so here we are. Obviously something happened to us.
Yeah.
And I know your story, you know my story. The bottom line is Jesus got a hold of our lives.
Totally.
And as he got a hold of my life in college, I still did not have a vision of what the church could be until I was in a meeting where a guy was preaching, and he preached Matthew 16. It was the first time I ever heard Jesus describe the church. It's one of the first times he ever used the word church. And I tell you what, this is going to be the
Yeah.
foundation of this series is Matthew 16. Here's what God dreamed.
This is really the foundation of our life, this passage, yeah.
This right here. Let's read it. It says, Matthew 16:13, when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do people say the Son of Man is? Yeah. Now stop for a second. I haven't been to Israel. I'm going in April. You've been there multiple times because you're special.
Yeah, I'm special.
But I'm going to be standing where he was. But I've studied enough about it to know in that area, Caesarea Philippi was like a shrine to the gods. Mm-hmm. Even Caesar himself was enshrined as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. That was the title they gave to him. Mm-hmm. So here's Jesus, a penniless preacher rabbi with 12 ordinary men standing among these shrines to the gods saying, who do men say the Son of Man is? Mm. Now, the term Son of Man is really interesting. Jesus used that term about himself more than Son of God. Why? The Son of Man comes from Daniel 7. Now, if you didn't know this, you didn't know what he's saying. But if you were listening with ears, you're like, oh my gosh, he just said he's the Son of Man. Daniel 7 was the Son of Man will have an everlasting dominion, kingdom that'll never go. That's so right. He's communicating on the Messiah. So he's like, okay, what are they saying out there? They think these are all the gods. Do they know who the real God is?
Yeah, because all those kingdoms that were there, Caesarea, they're all rubble now.
Yeah. But at that moment,
they
that's who they bowed down to. Look at their answer. Yeah. Said, they replied, some say you're John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. But here's a key question, and I think this is a question everyone in the world has to answer. He asked, but what about you? Who do you say I am? Maybe the most important question any one of us will ever answer. Who is Jesus? And you got to love it. Peter, Simon Peter answers, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Jesus replied, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not overcome it. Yeah. Wow. So he cast this... Jesus cast this amazing vision of what the church is going to be. Now, you and I know, and I think most people here know, the church is not a building. It's a community of people. But here's what he says. He says, it's going to be an unstoppable force. And so here's what I thought we'd do.
Which is hard to believe when you think about how cruddy the church is sometimes.
Yeah, but it can be, and God's dream for it, which this series is all about.
That's what he's saying. It's going to be.
So let's look at 3 thoughts on church from Jesus. And we took these right out of this passage, 3 thoughts. And you know me, they're going to be cute, but they're going to make sense. The first one is this. The church is built on a rock. Yeah. On a rock. Now, here's what's interesting. He says, on this rock, I'll build my church. Now, there's different denominations that believe he was talking about Peter. Like, I'm going to build my church on Peter, like the first rock of the church, the
Peter
first
was
leader.
Certainly pivotal to the whole thing, right?
But certainly was. And some people think that. But I actually believe, we believe here at Kensington, he was not referring to a man, Peter. He was referring to what Peter said. On this rock, this statement, this confession that you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. I'm going to build my church. It's going to be a community of people that say, I believe that he's the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Because God doesn't build his church on men because men are flawed.
Yeah. Well, Peter's the little rock, and this big rock term of Jesus, this proclamation of lordship, it really is so fantastic. Because first of all, the context of all these great historical figures in worship, and Jesus, this little nobody, and he's saying, no, I'm going to be the one with the everlasting kingdom. But the other thing is the guys that he chose. Even asking Peter to make the statement, because I was thinking about these 12 guys that were gathered with him. Peter's going to deny Jesus with foul language and with bitterness. Judas is going to sell Jesus. James and John, at the very end of Jesus' life, are going to try to buy their way into being the top dogs. And all the disciples are angry and frustrated and confused. And these are the guys, these men from the fringe of society are going to be the answer to the gospel. And then when you read the New Testament, the Apostle Paul, who's a hyper-religious maniac killing Christians, he's called out by God by a shining light, and then he carries the gospel to the Roman and the Greek world that ultimately brought the gospel to all of us who are listening in this room, came through Paul and through all these flawed, messed up people.
And obviously one of the great things about what you just said is if God could use those guys, he can use us.
Yeah.
Right? He can use anybody. Yeah. I mean, you sort of look at that and it's like, how in the world did the church even extend to 2,000 years later? Here we are. It's because God used those people. What did they have in common? One thing. Think about this. Every time you go to Israel, you just got back from Nepal, what's the one thing you find over there in common? The people you're with believe what?
Jesus.
Jesus is the
is
rock,
Lord.
that he's the Messiah, the Son of the living God, and that's the church. Whether it's, you know, in a building, it was so beautiful on Monday. A couple guys and I went to a man's house that family goes to Orion campus, and he's dying of brain cancer.
Oh,
he's got a 14-year-old daughter, 8-year-old son, his wife was there, and we baptized him right off his master bedroom into his bath. He can't walk. We had to carry him in there, and he has an unbelievable faith. We're all in tears, not because he's possibly dying, barring a miracle. We are in tears because this man was confessing Jesus as Lord, and it was so beautiful to be, what were we? We were the church, not in a building, in a house. While we were there, we were celebrating with this man, Mark, his faith in Jesus. Yeah. That's the foundation the church is built on. It's built on the rock of the truth of Jesus Christ.
Every time 2 or 3 people gather, Jesus said, there I am in the midst. Even you and me, together, 2 people, we're having church right now.
Yeah.
And the church is unstoppable.
Now, here's the amazing thing. Look where this goes. The church is built on a rock, but here's the thing about that rock. It's built on a rock that's rolling. You know, I mean, I had to get a little rock and roll in here.
A little corny.
The rock is rolling. But you know what I mean by that. And I know it's corny and it's probably not going to stick, but here's the thing. God's dream for the church, Jesus, when he talked about the church, was never a rock that just stayed. Now, Jesus is the same today, yesterday, and tomorrow. That's stable. But the church was never dreamed by God to just be stagnant or just sit and do nothing. The church was always to be moving. We talk about it here. We love this phrase, go pulse. It's like the heartbeat of the church is go, go, go. Go where? Go to those people that God is trying to reach through what? The church. He's going to extend his kingdom of God through us going. It's not going to happen as we just gather. That's part of it. But it's just as important when we scatter, when we leave here, is to go and reach people with the gospel.
Well, I love it. I was just in Nepal, and you think of the impossible power of the gates of hell there. And I got to witness the most heartbreaking and hopeful experience maybe in my whole life of Jesus Christ taking these devastated girls who've been horribly, horribly abused and turning them into community leaders and business owners and creating private banks for groups of women, starting house churches. I mean, Jesus Christ is so alive. And when I look back on this, when I was a kid, I think I was so worried. I thought the church is so ineffectual. The gates of hell are going to like come in and just smash us. And I think I was in my late 20s whenever I heard someone teach on this and said, gates of hell aren't moving. The gates of hell are stationary. We're to go against them, you know. Exactly. We're to smash against them. And so the whole power is Jesus and one person is a majority. If Jesus was one person, Jesus was us, when we were starting this church, we were a majority. Nothing's going to stop Jesus.
And the amazing thing about Jesus, when you think, Jesus says, come follow me, he's never standing. He's always going somewhere. And so often it's like we're in a boat of comfortability in the church, and it's like we want to be comfortable, we want to make it about us. And Jesus is saying, no, I want you to walk on water, and I'm not standing on water, I'm walking. So when we get out of the boat, we say, I'm going to follow Jesus. This means we're going to go. And gates are defensive, so the church should be offensive. It should be on the move to extend the gospel.
Well, the people we remember in history, like the Apostle Paul and Peter, were people on the move. I was thinking of this month that we just finished. We just celebrated Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a guy that was attacking the gates of hell. Billy Graham, we talked again, incredible life and ministry. One of my greatest heroes, William Wilberforce, who really single-handedly destroyed the slave trade in the British Empire. Just unbelievable to think about all of these guys. We think about the early church exploding. And I guess what I realized is that the church that I grew up in, I thought, man, if you're part of the church, Jesus wants you to have a nice job and a nice house and a couple of kids and wear a nice clothes to church. And like, that was nothing of what it was. Jesus wanted radical followers of Jesus. And I thought about this in my own mom and dad. Actually, seen it in your life, seen it in Mark and Callie, seen it, I mean, it's just been a beautiful event. I've seen so many people that are listening to this message are people that have lived this rolling rock, like Jesus rolling.
We're surrounded by thousands,
And so to share it, I feel like I'm talking to a great cloud of witnesses. But I was thinking, I remember Billy Graham, but then I remember when I was 12, my mom and dad shared with me, I just come over from school. They said, hey, we're going to Kenya. So Dad's going to take over a mission hospital. So Dad left his medical practice behind. And by the way, Dad was like an endangered species. He was an outspoken follower of Christ who was a general surgeon, a physician, and he was invited to speak everywhere. And he was a fantastic teacher. My mother started Bible study fellowship in Memphis with Marian Fraser that grew to 2,000 women. I mean, they were amazing. But Dad left his practice. We went to Kenya. We left my brother, who was a high school All-American football and baseball player. We missed his senior year. And that, to me, was crushing because I loved him and was so proud of him. My mom left her first grandchild, who had just been born, and we moved to a remote area of Kenya in the Aberdare Mountains. And what I saw was that Jesus Christ was not status quo Jesus. He was adventure Jesus. You know, it's like he was the living Jesus that was worth following. And it was that year that changed my life. That year is the reason Kensington exists. I would have never, ever done what I did if I didn't see them following Jesus. That was the same mom and dad who gave away 50% of their income every year that I remember, because Dad's checkbook was open to me. He shared that and showed that to me. And I thought, Jesus is calling every one of us to that same Jesus, that same calling. It's the same Jesus that moved my mom and dad to Kenya, the same power that raised Jesus from the dead, the same Jesus that got you at Ball State University. It's the same Jesus calling right now.
Yeah, as you were sharing, I was thinking, when I first met you at Faith Church, the church that planted us, that's what inspired me. Yeah. We'd go work out together, pump big iron.
Look at that, man.
Yeah, just
feast your ass on that.
People are laughing like, you guys never did that. We did. We actually worked out several days a week. And the funny thing you remember is we didn't talk about weights or our bodies. We talked about the body of Christ and dreaming that God wanted to do something radical in Detroit. And now thinking he's not only done it here, but he's doing it locally and globally. And it's crazy to think, because I used to think if you go into like full-time ministry, vocationally, you're going to like the minor leagues. Like the big leagues are up here making money and getting stuff. And you know, this, and I realized, no, this is as important as anything. And people that are in the big leagues, like making money, if they're going to their workplace with a vision of, I am the church, I am to extend it in this cubicle, in this hospital, in this school, wherever I am, that's the big leagues. And
that's the church.
Oh, it is the church. And so we joined up, and it's like, man, we want to be a part of a revolution that would literally change the world. And it's so cool to look back in 28 years and think we have. I got to read you this quote. Okay. Alan Hirsch said this about the church in a book called Forgotten Ways. I love this quote. He said, if we want our kids to grow up and be nice, middle-class, well-adjusted college graduates with PhDs and nice haircuts, then my suggestion to you is, hey, quit it. Then my suggestion to you is do not introduce them to the Gospels, because there they will meet a Jesus that will cause them to lose their lives for his sake. There they will meet a Jesus who will redefine every relationship they have. Talk about what that means.
Man, I just think people are not interested in just doing something because you're supposed to do it. They want to do something that is alive and purposeful, something that could overcome their depression or their mental struggles or their desperation. It's something that is truly worth your life. And knowing Jesus Christ is alive and that his love endures forever, that he does lead an everlasting kingdom. Like he said at Caesarea Philippi, I want to be a part of something that lasts, and I want my life to be invested on something that lives beyond me. I don't care if my name is remembered, but I want the name of Jesus Christ to go forward in this world.
Yeah, and when you think about the one that leads the church, it's not you, it's not me, it's Jesus. He's the rock, he's the founder. He's moving. I wrote this in my notes. Jesus did not leave heaven and come to earth to start a religion. He came to start a revolution. He did not come to start an institution. He came to start a movement. Yeah. And I thought it's so interesting in my own life, and I think the church can do this as well, is you can either be a thermometer or a thermostat. Thermometer, what do they do?
What that means.
Here's what it is. Thermometer measures temperature, right? Yeah. And you stick it in certain places of your body to measure temperature, right? Well, so often we do the same thing. We walk in a room and we just copy the culture. We don't change it. A thermostat sets the temperature. It says, I am going to change every situation I'm in. I'm going to bring the light of Jesus into this marriage. I'm going to bring the light of Jesus into this legacy. I'm going to bring the light of Jesus, which is literally the church in action, going, moving, rolling into this city, into this country, into the world. And that's epic. I mean, that's epic. What Jesus dreamed of. It's like, that's what I want our church to be a part of. And so when we met, that's what I knew. We were soulmates. We're like, we got to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And so 28 years later, it's a dream come true.
Well, when you say that, I understand now what a thermostat is. My sister, who's a year ahead of me, Nancy Holcomb now, we were at Central High School. She changed that high school. She was the thermostat. She changed it.
Yeah.
There were nobody standing up for Christ. It was a rough inner city, multi-ethnic high school, and she was that person. I think looking back, maybe that's where I got the vision that one person, you know, or a handful of people could change the world.
And I've heard your story. You changed that high school too.
Yeah, but it started.
Yeah.
It all went back to her.
She started a legacy.
She gave me the courage to do it.
You continued it.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting when you start to follow Jesus, here's what happens. One of the first things happens is you no longer have your eyes on yourself. You start to realize it's not about me. It's about him. And he wants to use me and us, the church, the community, to serve others. I can remember the year I ran the Detroit Marathon for Hope Water. Did you know I ran the marathon?
Oh man, I bet you smoked it.
I ran the relay, which means I ran the last 7.3 miles.
Oh boy.
So I got
That's
to
a lot further than I ran.
Well, whatever. I got to finish the race with Steve Norman and Josh Eisenhart and Zarbaugh. It was awesome. But as I came running in, I'm in tears. Not because I ran 7 miles and I'm in trouble. I was fine. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm crossing the finish line, not for me. Because hundreds of people have given money in my name to Hope Water to put wells in Africa for people who will die without water. And so as I'm running across the finish line, I'm thinking, I'm part of the church. I'm part of God using me and thousands of others to bless somebody else that I'll never even meet. I thought, that's a church on the move.
Wow.
So here's the thing. We got one last point. But as we do this last point, I thought, what a great time to take the offering. I mean, people gave and are giving to different campaigns and Hope Water. So many of you give to Kensington online. It's amazing. 70% of our giving's online. I just want to say, thank you.
I just saw a new
Thank
safe
you.
house going up in Nepal.
Yeah, those are the kind of things that happen when you give. Some of you are brand new here today. You're our guests. You can let it pass. But those of you that give, thank you. You're making a difference because you are advancing the kingdom of God. What Jesus dreamed of the church, you and I are a big part of, and giving is a significant part of that. Okay, last thought. We got the church is built on the rock. The rock of what? The confession that he is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. The church is built on a rock that's not stable. It's always moving. And then here's the final one. The church is built on a rock that leaves a mark.
Yeah.
So in other words, I mean, like you said, this church is crashing against the gates of hell, these defensive gates that say you're not going to penetrate darkness. Though the church is not just rolling, it is everywhere the church goes. Everywhere a believer goes, they leave a mark, a dent, a significant impact for God.
I see our community doing it everywhere, all of our campuses, Jesus Christ moving through people, through God's calling, through things that are happening inside and outside the church. And I remember this. I remember when we started, we felt so feeble. We felt determined.
Yeah.
We were like, oh, we're in a church. We just think, hey, we're so tiny. But the thing is, God doesn't care how tiny you are or how weak you are. He is powerful. And he decided to do something that was truly amazing. And I remember people were saying we're crazy. I remember almost every pastor or friend that I knew hated what we were doing.
We were a little crazy.
We were a little obnoxious. I recognize that. And to think that when we started, that God just had this hand of blessing on us. But it's even interesting. Remember we were going to start our first campus.
Oh, right there. We announced that we're going to start Rochester. We called it North. Remember,
Campus.
we called it Kensington North at the time. And I came off the stage after announcing that to the Troy campus, and a guy walked up to me. And he was mad, and he goes, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You're going to destroy this whole thing. You got something great happen. People are going to leave here. That is the worst strategy ever. Yeah. And I had to look at him and go, I think God's calling us to do this, and here we are.
This summer, we're going to start our 59th U.S. church plant in Nashville, Tennessee, and you'll be hearing more about that. But I remember we started starting new churches, and we'd bring young leaders up on the stage and say, pray about going with this person. And people in the church go, that's a terrible business plan. Well, it actually is.
Yeah.
But it's the goal pulse. It's the movement of God. And so I just want to finish. This will be my last thought, and I'll turn it back over to you. But more than ever, as we've gotten larger and maybe more successful, whatever that means, and we have more of a global impact, people say, when are you going to slow down? When are you going to stop pressing so hard? When are you going to stop taking risks? And my answer is, when I'm dead. I hope it's when I'm dead or when I lose my mind. Because if Jesus Christ is risen from the dead, if Jesus Christ, who stood there at Caesarea Philippi, is really alive, and he defeated death, and he sits at the right hand of God the Father, then we are never going to stop. We're never going to stop trying to reach people. And we wanted to reach our contemporaries. We have a whole new band of leaders at Kensington that are praying about reaching their generation. And so this is my last thought. I really don't believe in the idea that we have multiple lives. I believe we have one life, and that we make that life count, and that life matters. And I want you to know something. I don't ever be protective about this church or what God's given us. I want to risk it all. I want to live every day of my life as the best day ever. I want to live it pushing all in. And I don't want to let my discouragement or my weakness or my own personal struggles stop Jesus from doing what he's going to do in this world. That's what I want to be a part of.
I'll tell you what, 28 years in, I couldn't feel more passionate today than I was day one with you. I mean, I hope we die doing this together. Now, they don't want us around until we die, but I hope we pass this on to the next generation, and 20, 30, 50, 70 years from now, these buildings and more churches are planted and more campuses will happen, because I really do think the best is yet to come.
I want to tell you how I feel, the way I feel about you, the way I've loved you, the way I've loved Mark, in the midst of all of our ups and downs, our team, our family, that's the way. Every time I look out, I see every single person, that's how I feel about them.
I mean, you said day one, 28 years ago, God will bring great people to join this, and they're sitting all over it. You guys are soldiers. You are warriors. You are playing in the big leagues. I don't know if it's C.T. Studd. I think it was him. What a name for a missionary, but a guy named C.T. Studd.
Wish that was my name.
I think he said this. It's somebody. He said, only one life, and it will soon pass. Only what's done for Christ will last. And that's what you just said.
Yeah.
The only thing that matters is God said, I'm going to do something fantastic on planet Earth, and guess how I'm going to do it? Through the church, through flawed people who come together with one core belief. We believe Jesus is the Son of God, the Messiah, the only hope of the world. And God says, I'm going to take you, and I'm going to take me to the world through you. So there's no greater mission.
To the ends of the earth, to reach the church, to reach every single person. That we would give our lives, even for one person. Like if for all these years at Kensington, if only one person had come to know Jesus, it would have been more than worth it.
And so I would say this, man, I'm inviting you to join us. Some of you are brand new here, you've been here a few months or whatever, you're trying to figure out exactly what we're all about. Man, join this mission of the church being an unstoppable force. You'll never regret it. It's the greatest thing you'll ever do is commit your life to Christ, and then commit your life to saying, God, what do you want me to do? What part do you want me to play? Because I tell you, God doesn't want you to sit and watch. I talked to a guy today who told me 3 years ago he came on a Sunday in October, and 3 weeks later he was serving. And he's been serving ever since. And it's just, man, that's exactly what he wanted to do. He just saw the life in this guy as he's like, God is using me to change the world. And so here's what I say. We need you, and it requires energy, time, and even finances. And we've got an epic campaign that we're in right now that we want you to be a part of. Many of you already are, and we want to show you a video where Greg and Steve sat down and talked about what God's doing here and what God's going to do here in the future. I want you to watch it because I want you to join with us on this epic mission.
Every once in a while, a church has the opportunity to accelerate their mission, like double down on what they're all about. And over the years of Kensington's existence, we have had just a handful of those very special times, and our Everyone campaign is the most recent example of that. This was a 3-year window in which Kensington Friends are giving over and above their regular financial support. We are approaching the last year of those 3. A few thousand people have already given toward this, and we are so grateful. But we have more to do in order to finish strong, and we have more people who can help us get over that finish line. So some of you have been with us all along. You started with the Everyone campaign a couple years ago, and you've been giving, and we're so grateful. And perhaps you were around back then and just didn't see your way clear to jump in financially with us back then, but maybe now you could see your way clear to jumping in for the last 12 months. And maybe some of you are brand new to Kensington, and you may want to consider being part of the last year as well. And no matter who you are, we just know that together as a church family, we can fuel incredible mission and ministry here and around the world. And to get a taste of what all those things are, take a look at this. We're super excited about our new Clinton Township building, where we believe thousands of people will come meet Christ and engage their faith in a totally new way. At Troy, we've been able to improve a handful of things, including our kids' security system, and make some updates in the auditorium. We're still helping new churches get off the ground, so we invested in Easttown Church, led by the Dupins in San Francisco. We believe environments matter, so we've invested heavily in our online environment, that is our website, as well as what you see when you come into a Kensington lobby. We were able to complete the adoption of the Traverse City campus and church family. We've partnered with an organization called Youth with a Mission, which is all about reaching the next generation in the city of Detroit. So it's been an amazing run, not just for 27, 28 years, but even in the last couple of years, we have been able to see amazing things happen inside of Kensington, outside of Kensington. And when you think of all that, what for you really gets you pumped up?
Our story is almost unique in the world. When I tell people around the country, say, yeah, we have 7 campuses giving millions of dollars to another campus that they'll never see or use in order to see people come to know Christ in the Detroit area. And they're like, wait a second, explain this to me. These people over here 40 minutes away are giving to these people, and they're giving like major portions of their life resources to make this happen. It doesn't even compute to people. And what I love is this spirit of other-centeredness.
The great part now is we're taking this little kind of time out in the Everyone campaign, because we've put a lot of resources into Clinton Township facility, understandably, yep. But there's this other list of projects that are really amazing projects that if we finish strong and as we sort of collect people into this investment, it's amazing things yet to come, yes. Just in the next year or two.
And think about this. This seems almost corny, but Troy's getting a new parking lot for a new Troy campus. Listen, there's a new spirit at Troy and a new vision and a new movement that is as exciting to me as anything we've done in our 27 years. We have signage, we have things that are happening at every campus to make us better, and we're going to step in and see those things happen.
Was that your dream, like when you said, I want to be a church planting operation, a church planting church, which is why people think we're crazy, right? Because we're always sending people away from our church. Had you dreamt about having that express itself in other places than just America?
I did, but I had no way of knowing the variation of Nepal, Cuba, Afghanistan, where we actually are supporting leaders who have been executed, have been beheaded this year. Gosh, we get to be a part of it. Are you kidding me? No, I never dreamed that it would be this dramatic. The other thing that I didn't expect is the fact that people hear, well, we want to start new churches, and they think, oh, you want to start like a beautiful building. Like, no, Jesus said, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst. And so we have people that are launching new initiatives, new dreams all the time, new small groups and homes, new ideas, new ministries that are going to change the way people live. This is being birthed in the hearts of Kensington people literally every second.
You know, I think sometimes when people see Kensington and they see some of the great things that have happened and the buildings we have and all these wonderful people around us, they're like, well, what do you guys need? I mean, why would you even be asking for more? Like, are you building some sort of an empire?
Yeah, well, the empire that's being built belongs to Jesus Christ, not to me. No one on this staff owns any of this. This belongs to the Kensington body. And what is amazing to me is that whatever we do inside, we do far more outside. We're going to launch our 59th U.S. domestic church this year. We are going to touch over 1 million people with the gospel of Jesus Christ globally. It's like what we do here at Kensington, it's like the epicenter of everything going out.
Almost like we're collecting resources so that we can actually send them out.
Yes, yeah. And then the greatest resource is the people themselves as they go out to do what God's called them to do.
So there's probably a couple thousand people listening to this conversation right now, and we still have a year of the Everyone campaign to go. What would you love to see happen?
Very simple. I want 100% of us to be in to this Everyone campaign. I want every person at Kensington who's a part of Kensington now to be able to look back and say, I helped finish that Clinton Township building that's going to be reaching people at Hall Road in 94 for the next 100 years. And I helped build that Nepal Safe House where young girls are being restored into church planners and community leaders. And I invested in Kaleo Kids and reaching these elementary schools and restoring and changing these kids' identities. And I was a part of getting Troy a new parking lot and Orion, you know, building upgrades inside. The beauty of life is when you can say, we did this together. That's what I want. I want every person to be freed from the oppression of the question, what's in it for me? And to be liberated to ask the question, what is Jesus Christ inviting me into? Like how to use my life, everything that I've been given, whether it's for the Everyone campaign or starting a new program or reaching out to their neighbors, and that we begin to live not with this concern about how do I preserve my own life? It's how do I give my life away and let Jesus like flow through me in this world? Not just through individuals, but as communities, as teams, as groups of people. Kensington is a huge army around the world. And as people are learning to say, not my will, but Jesus, yours be done, man, what might we see? I mean, we've already been amazed. I think the best is yet to come. I am absolutely grateful to God that He put me in a community where people give selflessly. Like, I look around the country, I don't know of anybody that does it this way, where people give to other people, people serve, people launch. I was thinking Kensington started almost 28 years ago because people from around the country gave who never even came here. And that was the money that started this church.
It's really a beautiful thing. I mean, you're right. It's so unique that people would give and they don't even benefit. Other people benefit from it. And the beautiful thing is we're going to ask you to keep doing it. That's us. We're always going to challenge and say, let's go to where God's calling us, and it's always going to require time and sacrifice and money.
And discomfort.
So the ushers right now are going to pass out this card, this brochure for you to look at. We're going to walk you through it briefly, but it's literally a card that you're holding in your hand, which is God's sort of vehicle to say, do you want to join us and be a part of the future? Because here's what's truly amazing is, you know, I look at the Troy campus right now and say, do you realize, Troy campus, you're sitting in a building that people gave to before you were here?
Long before.
You know, 28 years ago, we started campaigns to say, start putting money away so someday when it's ready, God moves us. Think of this, Orion campus, where I spend most of my weekends. Think about this, Orion. You're sitting in a building right now that a woman from Troy gave the biggest, largest gift to start the campaign. She doesn't go to Orion, but she believed in God's call in such a way that we have a building because of somebody else giving.
When we started, we said, man, wouldn't it be great if we could live in a community where nobody asked, what's in it for me? That's what we look at. Clinton Township, you're getting ready to move into a building in a couple of months where 80 to 85% of the money that's building that building has come from the other campuses. I mean, it's humbling, and it keeps us all humble because we need each other. Think about Birmingham, Shelby, and Clarkston, all launched. And what about Traverse City?
Traverse City, the first $2.8 million of this campaign, the Everyone campaign, went to adopt them into the Kensington church world, which is awesome. So here's the thing.
I love it.
We're inviting you to join us with this Everyone campaign. Go ahead and open up this card. I just want to highlight a couple things on here. And the biggest thing is this. We're a year away from finishing this campaign. We started 2 years ago, it was a 3-year campaign, and our goal was $30 million. It's still $30 million. $22 million was pledged 2 years ago. And here's the amazing thing. $22 million was pledged by only 3,000 people at Kensington. We have an average attendance of over 14,000 people, which is awesome that many people pledged.
At least 7,500 giving units, giving families and individuals. Yeah.
Which is cool. You can look at that and go, wow, that's cool. And the other side of it is there's so much room for other people to jump in and join us. And
to
so
get us to that.
Here's what's really exciting. There's 3 options for you. Maybe you weren't here 2 years ago or last year, and you're hearing about this campaign for the first time. You're like, I want to jump in. We call that startup.
Yeah.
In other words, you can start up right now, join in for this last year and get in. Or maybe you were here 2 or 3 years ago and you didn't join at that time for whatever reason, and now God's saying it's time to start up. You can jump in. And we put in the card just, you know, if 750 people gave $50 a month, or 1,300 households gave $100 a month, or 2,000 households gave $250 a month. And I know people can do that. It isn't out of the question. That would make up the difference of what we're trying. We're hoping to get 5,000 families to commit to this. And that's a big jump.
3,000 to 5,000. It's a big step, but I think it'll happen. I think people want to join in.
I think so too. So for some of you, it's startup.
Yeah. The other one is I want to speak to the step-ups. This is the 3,000 of you that, like Dave and me, have already made, a lot of us have made huge pledges, big challenges. I'm so grateful. And a lot of you have already finished your pledge. You're warriors. And maybe God's blessed you. And maybe you say, hey, you know what? 2 years ago, I couldn't see 3 years down the road, but this could be the moment where you could jump in and even propel us even further along on this journey. And I think that could apply to both of us. So you don't have to. I mean, you're free in Christ. But if you'd love to step up and go to a different level, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I actually think there'll be a lot of people do that. It's like God is blessed. I mean, I've talked to several people that they fulfilled their pledge before the 3 years. They couldn't believe they did. And so it's a question to ask them to pray the dangerous prayer. We've always talked about just saying, God, what is your will for me as it relates to this? So it may be start up for some people, step up from others. And then the last one is stay in, which is probably both of us. I know I'm staying in. I made a pledge. I haven't completed it yet, but I'm not bailing out. I'm going to finish strong. I hope to give more than my pledge in this next year. But those are you that are.
Done that a bunch of times.
Yeah, we've all done that. And there's thousands and hopefully more that are going to say, I am staying in and I'm going to finish this thing. And a lot of it is truly believing God for a miracle. Yeah. And I've seen this this is our 6th campaign, I think, in 28 years. And every year, Ann and I made a pledge greater than we thought we could fulfill because we believed God was calling us to that number. Yeah. And every single time, God has miraculously provided. And again, it's like we're on our knees going, we're grateful that not only God blessed us, but he blessed us in a way that we could help the church be an unstoppable force.
We just see time after time of where Jesus has met us. I mean, even the provision of the land for Clinton Township or the Orion building movement that probably saved us millions of dollars. We've seen God's faithfulness, but even more than that, we see God's faithfulness working in individual lives and in families and groups and movements. And I just really am so grateful that whatever time I have left, whatever time we have left, you probably have more time left than me.
I don't know.
But to follow Jesus to the very end and to make hay, man, while we can. Let's go for it. And to say, well, Jesus, what might you do next? Because we honestly don't know. And I think if there's one thing that surprises me at this point where we are right now is how fast life has gone.
Yep. You blink.
Yeah, people are saying, man, why don't you just back off and coast? I'm like, are you kidding me? Life is so short. And we've got a chance to do this together. And man, I want to go into heaven and with all of you, with a great train of people that were blessed, people that never knew Jesus, but came to find him because he was faithfully working through us. So I'd ask you to take this card and put it in a place of prominence and just pray. I honestly don't care what you do, but to pray about it and say, Lord, what are you directing me to do?
Yeah, we really don't care what you do. We want you to go before God just like we have and continue to do and say, God, what do you want me to do? And whatever he tells you, do it.
Do it with joy.
Do it with joy. Pray about it with your family. Pray about it any way you want. And then he's going to lead you. He is going to lead you. And on the back of the card, you can see that's how you let us know. We're actually going to have a pledge Sunday in 2 weeks, Saturday night here at Troy and Sunday, where you can come and bring this and tell us what you're going to do. I really believe God's going to do a miracle. He's going to raise another $8 million. We're going to be able to do incredible things here and then locally and then globally because you and I are going to be soldiers and say, we're doing this because it matters, it's important, and anything that matters requires sacrificial effort and giving. And I want to say thanks before I pray because I believe God is going to use all of us to do incredible things.
Yeah.
Want to pray? Let's pray. Father God, thank you. Thank you for this mission of being a part of a community that is your church, that's unstoppable. And what a mission to live our lives for. It is worth our very lives. And you've called us to that, and you've called thousands way beyond what we ever dreamed to be a part of Kensington and beyond. And Lord, I pray that the next decade and several decades would not be something that's stagnant or status quo or mediocre. I pray it would be the best is yet to come. And so God, I pray you lead us. We'd hear clearly from you and we'd obey. We'd step out in faith like never before and trust you like never before. And we'll see you do greater things than you've already done, which has been incredible. But you're going to do even greater. So Lord, thank you for this army. Thank you for the soldiers. Thank you for Steve. And we pray that we would do your will and you'd use us beyond what we can even imagine or dream. In the name above all names, the name of Jesus, who is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, we pray. Amen.
What an inspired message that was delivered by Dave and Steve. And I just reflected on that message and thought about how God kind of called me to be a part of the move of the Unstoppable Force, and just even thinking about my transition from Ohio to here, and just how God has allowed me to dive in with Kensington and just seeing their heart and knowing that as we are the Unstoppable Force, God is giving us a challenge and a call to go, but we can't go without Jesus. And you think about the last 28 years that Kensington has been successful in spreading the good news to the lost or to the one, and we know that we couldn't have done that without Jesus also. And so I thought it super appropriate to do this song called Do It Again. And the chorus just says how faithful God has been. It says, your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You will never fail me yet. And we believe that going even into the new building, God, your promise still stands. You'll still be faithful. You'll still be mighty and strong. And so as we sing this, I just pray that you allow the words to just settle in your heart and just reflect on that. And we're going to sing the chorus, and I just wanted to teach it to you guys really quick. It says, your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me yet. Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. And waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. No, your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me yet. Never failed. No. And I know the night won't last. Come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Yeah, Jesus.
Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. We'll sing this chorus together. Your promise still stands. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail me yet. No.
I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way when there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way when there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way when there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I'll see you do it again. See you do it again. I'll see you do it again. See your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Faithfulness in every situation. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail me yet. Oh no. You never fail me yet, and I never will forget. No, you never failed me yet, and I never will forget.
I don't know about you, but I can always use a reminder that He's faithful and that He's not going to forget us, and that we can be a part of what He's doing, that He can move mountains. And when I think about like what God can do with the church, the big church, our building, you and I as volunteers and servants, all of our gifts as part of the capital campaign, like it's unlimited. It's limitless what He can do in and through us and our community. And I think there's an opportunity for everybody. There's something for everybody to do. And I hope that some of you are feeling nudged today in so many different ways for one of those opportunities. Maybe it's the card that I mentioned at the beginning. Maybe you want to join our serving team. Maybe you're going to pray over the capital campaign. We want you to jump into all of it with us. We want to be that unstoppable force that you heard about today. That we can be reminded that through Jesus, we can make a difference in our world because he makes a difference in us. So some of you might have some questions about what you heard about. You're going to get some material on the way out. If you filled out that card, please drop it in the basket. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody next week for week 2 of Unstoppable Force. Have a great week.